getting into the broker business, you don't really know what to expect, right? And I talk with a lot of business owners, a lot of people that are trying to come through the course that are just getting, questions, should I make this jump or do it or not? And when you're in that initial offering of what do I do with my life, I don't think anybody knows what to expect if you're not in the banking industry or a broker already or have done something in that field.
Right.
But holy shit, it's been the best thing I've ever done in my entire life was to make that jump and trust in myself to really push myself and go forward.
There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's two words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Entrepreneurs in Finance, where we interview graduates, lenders. We interview our staff here on what life is like in CCTG or being a CCTG graduate. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You see that little button there pop up, and you can follow us for more great content and future episodes coming out. On this episode, it is a special episode, a pretty special episode, because we're revisiting a graduate who has been with us for a while. We did a testimonial. He had agreed to do a testimonial video for us years before. I think about 2 years ago, he was on this podcast, but virtually in his hometown. And today, for the third time around, he's agreed to come here in person and kind of shoot the shit with us. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Dave Khwaja, president of First Touch Consulting.
Hey, Kris, how you doing?
How are you, Dave?
I'm good, man. It's nice to be back in Albany.
And I was going to say, there's not much to fly out here and come to Albany, but I'm glad you decided to be on this in person, right? You got the call that we wanted to, do this because we want to track your success, and you made the initiative to be here in person, right?
I did. Just so everybody listening, right? I had to reach out to Kris and give my big thanks for all that CCTG has done for me, right? As far as how it's grown my business, how it's changed my life, the things that I'm able to do now.
Yep.
It's given me that entrepreneurial freedom, and you got to give credit where credit's due, and that's all the course.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think I said, hey, we got to have you back on just to kind of track that, because believe it or not, people like that. Even graduates, like, they like seeing follow-ups after follow-up. Right. Just that person didn't fall off after the podcast. Like, to see your journey ever since we sent cameras out. I don't know how many years ago was that. Yeah. Well, how long have you been through? When did you come through CCTG?
Yeah, so it was 2018 when I first came.
2018.
Yeah. So okay. We're going on 5 years now.
5 years now. And I remember we sent a crew out maybe a year after.
Yeah, it was about
a year and a half after, and we kind of highlighted your success. And then you did a podcast about 2 years ago, right? And here you are today. So, I like your hat.
Thank you.
Go fast, don't die.
That's a motto I try to live by, for sure.
I hear you. Yeah, no, I like the hat. That's the first thing I noticed. Tell me, so how's your journey been thus so far? I mean, has it been a wild ride?
It's a wild ride.
Did it meet your expectations, or are you like at a point where you're just, I don't know, amazed of how far you've come?
Yes, and yes on all of those.
Right.
Getting into the broker business, you don't really know what to expect, right? And I talk with a lot of business owners, a lot of people that are trying to come through the course that are just getting, questions, should I make this jump or do it or not? And when you're in that initial offering of what do I do with my life, I don't think anybody knows what to expect if you're not in the banking industry or a broker already or have done something in that field.
Right.
But holy shit, it's been the best thing I've ever done in my entire life was to make that jump and trust in myself to really push myself and go forward.
Did you have any, and correct me, I didn't have a chance to go back and review some of the other ones, but were you already what did you do before CCTG?
So I sold Harley Davidsons.
Yeah.
And then decided to follow one of my customers and work for his equipment finance company. And it was a very short time that I worked with that company that I decided I wanted to be a broker and go make my own money.
Got it. And then you did some research and you found us.
Exactly. Yep.
And what was that? I mean, what was that like? I mean, what was that transition like, leaving a job, right? An equipment finance company to actually come here? Well, was that a leap of faith? Was it tough to kind of make that transition? Like
yes,
leaving a
and no.
secure job and going?
Right. Yes and no, it was. So when you're working for a big company that's got a national reach, you can call Coca-Cola, Pepsi, FedEx, whoever you want and get in the door because you've got the money to back you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you leave and start your own company, nobody knows who you are.
Right.
So I wasn't knocking down the same doors that I was before. And that helped me transition into more of a Fortune 500 business to let's look at the small and medium-sized businesses and see what they need as well.
Right.
So I was really jumping towards trying to find out, hey, who can I sell money to? Are you a business that needs equipment financing? Do you need real estate? Do you need an SBA loan? What do you need? And I was knocking on a lot of doors, but I wasn't getting a lot of answers. So I had to transition to find out who my customers really were. And I found out my customers were lenders.
We're lenders. Okay.
And once I started knocking down the lenders' doors and saying, hey, I want all the deals that you guys don't want to do.
Right.
Which is the whole reason I left the equipment finance company in the first place.
Right.
I started getting referrals.
Okay.
I started getting deals coming through my door, seeing them on my desk, and that just kicked the door wide open for me.
Did you think, tell me a little bit about your background. You're married?
Married.
Kids?
4 kids.
4 kids. Ages?
10, 5, 3, and soon to be 2.
Wow. Okay.
We're in it.
Congratulations. So, but in 2018, you they were little. I mean, one wasn't even born,
I had 2
right?
kids, right? I had
2 kids.
My oldest, who was probably 5 at the time, and then a newborn.
And then a newborn.
Yeah.
What was that like starting? Was your wife supportive?
She was very supportive, and cautious at the same time. Right. So we sold our home, paid off all of our debt, and put money into coming to CCTG. That was kind of our whole goal. So
I remember that.
moved into the in-laws basement and bootstrapped
That's right.
the company.
That's right. You know what? I forgot about that. That's one thing that always perplexed me or intrigued me, I guess, about you, right? Is that you left the job, you sold everything, moved into your in-laws basement and saved up to come to CCTG, and you did it.
That's it.
Talk about, and you had a newborn.
Yeah.
Right.
Scary.
How long did that last? What was that time like? I mean,
we probably spent, it was 4 or 5 months with the in-laws while we were doing it. I literally remember coming back from CCTG, working on my kitchen table in the basement while my wife and kids were in the other room making dinner. I was working on deals. I was talking to lenders. I was trying to find out how to structure, and that basement holds a special place in my heart.
I bet it does. Yeah. A lot of memories there, right? Because it was kind of do or die.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's where it's at. Wow. And it's, yeah, I love hearing stories like that, because I talk about when I start class now, right? We do class each month. I talk about, listen, we have our end of the bargain to do as a company, which we have in writing and we had testified to. But our grads, they have their end of the bargain, right? That they have to do, which is not clearly defined in a training agreement, right?
Yeah.
You got to work hard, dedication, right? Things out of our control that you have to come to this relationship, 100% as well. But I also talk about sacrifices that you have to make, right? Your family's going to have to make sacrifices. They're going to have to support you. You need a good support system, and the times are going to get tough. But you have to. What separates kind of the men from the boys is that you got to do what you have to do, kind of at all costs, in order to progress forward as an entrepreneur. Because as good as we are as a training company, good as the lenders we have, as good as the support we have, at the end of the day, you're still going to go through tough times,
100%.
And which you could probably attest to that, right? But it's all up to that individual. We always say it's that you have to kind of learn how to stomach through that and kind of have that, whatever that desire is, to push you through that.
Oh, yeah.
Your desire was living in a basement with a newborn.
That's right.
At your in-laws' house.
That's right. Yeah. And my wife, she gives me this talk all the time, right? She's like, you're going to have an ulcer from how up and down your deals get, because there's no clean deal. Like, as clean as you might think, there's going to be something.
It's always a story, right?
And I think you said it right. If you're not putting in the work, if you're not willing to see it through, you will fail.
It's a roller coaster ride.
You will fail.
Talk about those highs and lows.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, talk about those. Talk about, when one day you think you're going to be making, a 6-figure commission, and all of a sudden, then the next day it looks like the deal's dead, but then comes back. It's just, it's an emotional roller coaster. Would you agree to that?
Every single deal is. We get some deals that take 72 hours to fund, and we get paid. And then we have others that literally take a year and a half that don't even go through. And it's heartache and heartbreak, if you will.
No, particularly not just because of the loss of revenue, but you probably develop relationships with
lot of
with the clients, right? You don't want to let them down.
clients. Sometimes there's multiple lenders that the deal goes hand in hand with on multiple occasions. And it's just a lot of work that gets put into them. But as much as I talk about the heartbreak, you learn something every single failure you have.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps with the next deal that you see. And I think where a lot of people might give up is they think, oh, I didn't get this deal closed. I don't have money in the bank. Screw this business. I'm out. I'm going to go find something else to try to find some fast money. That's not what this business is. This business is good connections, longevity, and seeing it through.
Seeing it through 100%. How do you get your deals? I mean, has that changed over the years, or is it pretty consistent of how you put yourself in front of opportunities?
Yeah. So when I first started, I thought, man, I'm going to go knock doors and everybody in Utah and find out how I can sell them money, right? Do you need equipment? Do you need a line of credit? Do you need PO financing?
Right.
And people didn't give me the time of day. They're like, I'm good. I've got a bank that I work with. My accountant doesn't want me to spend any money right now. And I had to make a shift in what I was doing because I was spinning my wheels a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I started taking banks out to lunch.
Okay. Yeah. Bankers.
Hey, what banks, what deals do you want to do so that I know what to bring to you? And what deals do you not want to do so that you can refer them to me?
Right.
And we're at a point now where I'd like to say we built up a good book of business that we're running 100% on referrals right now.
Wow.
Because banks and lenders look for us to help their clients get funded when they can't do it.
Right. And that's what we preach in class, But
Yes.
so you kind of took that, and it's funny because it's almost like I always say we produce children here every month, right? And as we know, right, you have kids, I have kids. You know that sometimes you could teach your children, right? But then when they leave the house thinking they know the world, they go out and they try to do it their way. And sometimes they fail. Most of the times they fail. And they come back and they realize, all right, this is, what dad said, right? Like we got to do it this way and it's going to work. So sometimes I'm bringing that up because you came out of here and you were spinning your wheels, right? You were going door to door and, but then you went back to kind of the basics, it sounds like, because if you remember, we do a whole lecture.
Oh yeah.
Right. How to talk to bankers and get referrals. And it's paid off, clearly.
Yeah.
Right?
I remember sitting in the airport in Albany when I was leaving back to Utah, writing my pitch. And you talk about don't focus on every single industry. Pick a couple different industries that you want to work on, and do those first.
Mm-hmm.
And with what I was seeing before I came, I said, I'm going to work on helping people fix their credit to become lendable, maybe do some bridge loans and some hard money deals, and then get into some real estate deals down the road. I was literally waiting for my plane, writing in my notebook. One of the 3 notebooks that I brought to class and taking notes on, right? I was literally writing my pitch. And when I got back to Utah, none of that pitch even mattered because every business was different. And I had to find a way to shift my mentality to what my market was doing.
So you threw out that whole game plan.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and you know what the key is too, I think, to not just a successful graduate, but an entrepreneur in general, is have the ability to adapt. Right. Because it sounds like you had to adapt probably many times.
Well, if you think about it, right, I came out in 2018, which was pre-COVID. I brought my first employee back to class in 2020, March 2020.
I remember that.
Right when things got shut down. Like we thought we were going to be stuck here in New York before we made it back home. And
holy shit, you know what? I remember that now.
Yeah.
I remember. So you came back, and it was March wasn't virtual. It was the last in-person class.
Yep, it was.
Yeah, the last in-person class. Yeah. Holy shit.
So we came.
I remember that.
I came in a time where, we were seeing good rates out in the market. Nothing too crazy. We had a strong economy for a couple of years, and nothing was really changing. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and banks shut down.
Yeah.
And rates dropped, but banks weren't lending anymore.
Right.
So we cleaned house, so to speak, right? COVID was great for our finance business to partnership up with some of these big banks throughout the nation.
Right.
That only cared about covering their portfolio. Let's make sure our clients are happy. Let's make sure that our portfolios are making money. And let's not lend anything because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So every single one of those customers came through my door, and we were able to then go find alternative lending for them that was still open at the time and get deals funded. And now we're in a economy where rates are jacking up every 3-4 months, and people are still buying.
They are. Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, no, they are. That's I always said that, right? I mean, and I've seen it where what we're experiencing now. I've been through that before, and people, just because rates go up does not mean people stop buying.
No.
You know, I mean, they still do. It's just, you know, and then when rates go down, they'll refinance.
They'll
You know,
refinance,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's just the cycle of it.
Yeah.
So, but that's an interesting journey. How you, God, I forgot you guys were in that last class. And
Yeah.
I remember that class. People talking about, you know, kind of what is it?
Yeah.
Like, what is COVID? Is it real? Is it, you know, is
Yeah.
it going to grip our country? Right. The next thing you know, next class we had it virtual,
That's
which
right.
was crazy around.
Yeah.
Crazy around.
Yeah. So I want to ask you that. I want to turn the tables and ask you,
Go
right, for
ahead.
CCTG, how has it been for you guys to have virtual classes and virtual students still kind of doing a hybrid option?
It Well, there's positives and negatives to it. But I don't like to dwell on the negative too much. So it was a blessing in that what COVID did, right? We had to adapt, and I was always old school, where I always said you got to have people here.
Yeah.
Right. There is no virtual option, even prior, before COVID. But we had to, otherwise we wouldn't have a class, right? So we went out, converted to virtual. All virtual was tough, and that year, the year after COVID, the months after that March class, very tough, because all we had was a virtual audience.
Yeah.
And you can't tell what people are doing if they're listening, right? People were engaging in chat, but I didn't have an audience here. I just literally had a couple people that helped me run the class, our staff here, and it's just me talking all day long. Or you have a lender that comes in, or most lenders weren't coming in. Actually, they were doing virtual, but it was eerie.
Yeah.
I felt like a news broadcaster.
Yeah.
Right. But now we've converted to a hybrid model, right? So when things came back on, it's great, because what we're learning is there are people that can't attend in person. They just, for whatever reason, kids, family, some of them are still working. They just can't take off a week and fly to Albany. So it's actually helped us. Also, it cuts down. We used to have mega classes.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people were in your class the first time or even the second time.
We filled up the round table and then had some on the side.
So like we added a table to this conference table. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore. And the reason for that is not because our class sizes have dwindled, that half the people elect to do virtual, half the people elect to be here in person. So the crowd to manage is more manageable.
Yeah.
Whereas before we're herding 25 people, right? Which are worse than cattle. Getting them to kind of be all in class, break times, all that other good stuff. So now what we find is, like, people bring partners or spouses. One will come out, one will take virtual.
Yeah.
And it's cut down on that, which makes it easier. So all in all, it is a blessing. The only downside to it is that, I get it, it's hard to stay in front of a computer for 8 hours.
Right.
Right. Particularly our curriculum. And what we have seen over time is that the ones that take virtual, sometimes they forget certain things.
Yeah.
And not, some don't, but some do. And they'll call our support team and they'll go, well, what about this? And we're like, well, we went over that. And or you do have that. Just look in your, you have this, you have that. Like they kind of forget certain things,
Yeah.
But all in all, I mean, it's worked. I mean, we've had people now that have come back to take the personal class in person that that took it in the COVID years where they couldn't be here in person.
Yeah.
So all in all, though, it was I think it was a good thing.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I've always wanted to stay in touch with everybody here in the office, and, Mac and John and Lucas and, throughout the whole team, is because everybody's always been so helpful the entire time.
I appreciate that.
That's been, part of the success that I've been able to have, is seeing, people at NACOB, sending people to the class, right? I've sent one employee to come in person where I came back a second time, and I've sent one through virtual class as well. And so that's why I asked, is because I've seen the highs and lows and how you need to adapt, and how I needed to help my employees adapt when they were doing it virtual.
Got it. Yeah. So how many people do you have now?
So I have 5 agents, if you will, under me. Yeah.
All right. And are they all over the country, or are they all in
They're
Utah?
all in Utah.
They're all in Utah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that?
It's great.
Is it?
It's great. Utah's economy is booming right now.
Yeah.
I've been able to pick up a couple of guys from the mortgage side who haven't been so lucky, but they understand the numbers and they know people. And so
it's the network that they're bringing over, right?
that's all you need. Yeah, absolutely.
That is all you need. And have you found yourself, as you're growing your business, have you found more of your time managing those people, or you're still going out there doing the nitty gritty like you did on day one, or have you delegated that?
No, it's a little bit of a delegation, right? So I take the time up front to train and work through deals. Every single deal that any of my agents have, I want to work through it with them up front until they can feel comfortable enough to be able to do it on their own, which a lot of them are picking up and doing that. Some of them I don't have to manage, but we're able to roll through deals and still get deals funded. And here's a paycheck.
Okay.
Right? Here's a commission.
Yeah.
This is what you got.
Yeah.
And it's great because it allows those people to make money for themselves and their family and also have the freedom to do this as well.
Yeah, it's kind of the concept has been tested, if you will.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there like one memorable deal that kind of maybe sticks out, or a recent one?
Yeah.
A memorable one of how you help somebody?
Yeah. So there's a lot. I'm not going to take up all the time talking about them, but there's a lot of deals that we do that we do a lot of sticky deals.
Right.
Some are clean, right? Some are just bankable deals that we can get in and out, collect paperwork, and here's funding, here's underwriting. Let's set a close date, and right here you go. We can do that.
Right.
But I find it's the hard ones that make it worthwhile. Right. Every single memorable deal that I've had has had some hair on it, and that's what makes it fun, is being able to work through those situations. So we did a deal recently where we had a company that partnered up with a VC firm. Right. They invested some money, took 50% ownership, ran it side by side. But what we find out in a lot of those deals is the original owners that have the idea work a lot harder than a VC company who's just investing to try to make a return on their money.
Sure.
We see it in and out. We've been very heavy with acquisitions over the last couple of years and buying out partners, which has been really fun to work on. But this VC company had dumped a lot of bad debt onto this company in Utah, trying to sell their portfolio. And the owners found out about it and weren't too happy. So the VC company thought, you're not a bankable deal. We're just going to sell you off to the highest bidder and call it good. And the owners pushed back, luckily. And that's where we got involved, was to try to find a bank that could help them out. So they didn't own any real estate. They didn't have a lot of assets. But what they did have was international patents. And we had to get creative with that and find a lender who would do appraisals on their patents to actually have an asset to borrow against.
Wow.
And once we did that, we went back to the VC firm and said, here's an offer. This is what we're able to give you. And they said, no way. There's no way you can get that. Well, we had a term sheet in hand to be able to prove it. And then from there, we went to about 6 months back and forth negotiating this dollar amount to what they thought the business was worth, to what the original owners wanted to buy it back at and valued it at. And there was multiple times in that 6 months that deal was dead and we didn't hear anything. And what we found out is that the VC firm was out trying to shop it and sell it for cheap on the back end to still make more money than the bank was going to lend on.
Right.
All in all, when the deal was closed, we put together a $10 million acquisition with $1 million line of credit for new operations with the new owners coming in. So fun stuff, man.
What kind of business was that?
It was a dental business.
Okay.
They make hybrid teeth, if you will.
Hybrid teeth. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that leads me to another question. You talk about ups and downs and you think that deal is dead. How important do you think mindset is to this business?
It's almost everything, if you will.
Right.
You can have the skill to talk to somebody. You could be the best salesman or the best marketer out there. If you don't have the mentality to stick it through and work through the hard stuff, you'll never make it. You will fall on your face and you'll be too afraid to answer the phone because you don't want to be told no.
Right. Yeah. Mindset's everything, right?
Everything.
I mean, if you don't have the right attitude, it's just not, it's not for you. It's not going to work. I mean, again, as good as I like to think we are, and the opportunity that we gave, you got to have the right mindset to kind of stomach through that stuff.
Right.
Right.
I've got a poster in my office that says outwork everyone, because if I lose a deal, it's not going to be my fault. I'm not going to lose it to another broker. I'm not going to lose it to another bank. It's
going to be on you.
It's because we couldn't structure something for the business that made sense.
Right.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. That's a great mentality. I love that. I mean, what do you think some of the, I may already know this answer, but what challenges? I mean, what do you think are the biggest challenges in this business? For your business
yeah.
and even personally,
Yeah.
right? Like being who you are and what you do in this business. What are some of the biggest challenges personally? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I tell all of my guys, people don't know what you do until they know what you do.
Mhm.
You can sell money and we can offer millions of dollars worth of credit to somebody, but if they don't know to come to you, no one's going to come to you.
Right.
So you've got to take the time to build up your pipeline, let people know what you do, market yourself, market our business so that people know when they need money, they come to us.
Mm-hmm.
They can go to their bank. They can go say any bank off the street, I need this money, but they're going to spin their wheels, losing a lot of time.
Right.
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 The bank doesn't want to underwrite them. They don't fit their credit box.
Right.
There's many reasons out there. We get paid because we know who to take a deal to.
Right.
That's what we bring to the business. So that's one thing that I've got to train everybody on, is that if you're not willing to talk about yourself, then there's no point of doing this.
Right.
And I say that in one of my things that's hard for me is because I try to be the guy in everybody's back pocket that gets pulled out when they need me. I don't need to be in the limelight. I don't want to be seen. I don't need to be the money guy. I want people to use me when they need me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to talk about that, to say, go out there and market yourself to be the best, when it's hard for me to market myself as the best.
I hear you.
Right?
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. I hear you. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you, but you're doing something. It seems like you mastered it. I mean, it's a good balance, right? I mean,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get the challenge. I
Yeah.
get the struggle.
Yeah. We're 5 years strong. Year after year, we're funding more deals and putting more money through for everybody in the business. So that's one thing that I can be happy about at the end of the day.
And you know, I mean, your wife seeing you from those days in that, you know, in that basement to now, I mean, she's got to be so proud.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope
right.
so.
Does she at least tell you that once in a while or no?
Yeah. You know, we talk about the deals that we have coming in, what we're working on, you know, what our year end looks like. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can plan, right. We like to have fun. And we've been able to, you know, take our family on some really fun trips and go see some new places and, you know, build some really fun houses. So
that's cool.
We're doing some stuff that we didn't do 5 years ago. And so I had to test that, you know, having a good partner like that definitely helps me at the end of the day.
For sure. She gets to enjoy the benefits of it. Right?
That's right.
Talk to me about fun. So what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah. So
you like to go fast and don't die?
I love to go fast. Right. So Harley's through and through, man. Yeah, motorcycle riding's fun. Getting out in the canyons and twisting's great. Last time when we did this a couple years ago, I was getting into photography and going out, you know, doing a lot of overlanding and camping out in nature, and my family loves doing that stuff, which is great. But as of 2022, last year, I got into bull riding.
Yeah. Okay. Bull riding
of all things.
Yeah. And talk to me about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
so yeah.
How did that come about?
It's so crazy, right? Like, even when I get asked that question, like I have to think back, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking?
Right.
Doing that. Right.
Right.
I'm such an adrenaline junkie, 38 years old. Like, I shouldn't be on the back of a bull, but something was intriguing me and pulling me to, like, hey, go do the toughest sport on earth, you know,
yeah,
see what you can do. And so I did some research. I found, you know, some schools run by some old Hall of Famer cowboys, and they teach you the 101 of cowboying and how to do it. Right. So you go in, you're learning how to put on a vest and a helmet and how to put on a pair of spurs on your boots. And they take you into this chute and you sit on a bull and you're tying your rope to your hand and connecting with that bull and all the way to the procedure of nodding your head, opening up that gate. And I'll tell you, once you wrap your hand around a 2,000 pound animal, like, it's game over.
It's game over.
All of a sudden you just black out and you don't even remember anything that you learned. It was the craziest thing in the world.
How do they prepare? Like, what's like the number one advice? Like, if I were to jump on a bull tonight,
yeah.
Like, what is the number one piece of advice you can give to me?
You got to have the mentality to see it through. That's what I would say. You got to get some cojones, right? Because
mindset.
The mindset.
So it's mindset. It goes back to mindset again.
100%
right?
It does, right?
Yeah.
You can get on trying to say, oh, I want to take this bull for a ride and see what happens. And next thing you know, you're going to be lying in a pile of dirt. Right. You've got to have the mentality to follow instructions, right? Where your feet are going to be, where your hands going to be, how your back's going to be arched, where your free hand's going to be up in the air, because you can't touch that bull and you can't touch yourself. That's the whole point of it.
Is that a rule?
You
You
got to
can't
ride
touch yourself.
8 seconds with a free arm up in the air and one hand riding the bull. So you literally have to think of 20 different sequences in your mind before that chute opens and run all of those concurrently while you're riding.
Yeah. And when that gate opens and it goes out, does it just go by in a blur?
It does.
Or does it seem very slow?
So for me, the first couple of bulls that I rode was
the first time
a blur. It was a blur.
It was a blur.
They say, look at the shoulder blade so you can see which way the bull is going to go, left or right, by which shoulder blade comes up. And you can't think about that. Like, you're on a freaking bull. You're
right. Holy shit. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's a no shit factor, right?
Yeah.
And I asked my coach, I said, how many bulls do you have to ride before you start getting the hang of it? And he said, 100.
Really?
And I dropped my jaw and thought, I am way too old for this sport.
You're way too. You were already on what, like 4?
I rode on 3 that first weekend, man, and I lasted 2 seconds on each one of them. But the hard part about it, and it goes back to mentality, to practice and try to get it right the next time, you got to get back on the bull.
Right.
And then you get bucked off and you go to your coach and they tell you what you did wrong and you go practice, and then you got to get back on a bull. And so, as much fun as it was to get on the animal and do that, the mentality part is really what stuck with me and will stick with me for the rest of my life. Is that you've got to be able to work through the pain, work through the anxiety, work through the fear to get on and do it again.
Right. Wow. And did you get hurt at all? Like,
oh yeah.
Like, did you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So the first bull that I rode, when I went flying, I thought I was going off on the right side, and I watched the film back and it actually shot me off the left side. So I literally wasn't a blur and had no clue where I was.
Wow.
After that chute went out.
Wow.
The second time I did a little bit more practice, right? Try to hold on to the rope, squeeze the bull with your legs so that you are on the animal. And I held on so long that my rope actually went underneath the bull and he stepped on me on my lower back. And I was lucky enough to get up and walk away from it. But the next day, got to get on a bull again, and you got to do it.
Shit.
So the third time I rode a little bit better than I did the first day. But the bull bucked me off and I went flying and landed on my back and snapped my head back. And if it wasn't for having a helmet, I would have been concussed and probably a lot more injured. Man. And it's not for the faint of heart, right? So I didn't want to just go and, play pickleball on the court and get a suntan, right? Like, I wanted to challenge myself.
Yeah.
That's 100% what it did.
What's the most common injury? Like, what's the injury that, like, in bull riding?
Oh man.
Sure. It's a long list, but like, what's like the most common, like, paralyzed, your neck, like, what's,
it happens, right? I mean, concussions, broken wrists, broken ribs.
Right.
I prepped myself from the time I started and signed up to go to this class. It was probably 3.5 months, and I watched PBR every single day for hours on end, man. Like, watching interviews, seeing the Hall of Famers, seeing the champions. And no joke, you could turn on any one of those interviews and they're sitting there with their shirts off. I broke my collarbone in 99. I broke my wrist in 2002. I broke my jaw in 2003. And it's a consistent run of injuries that happen from it. I mean,
happened. Yeah.
If you're going to be a bull rider or even get into that sport, you're going to get injured. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. And so you've got to know what you're getting yourself into to really have the cojones to jump on it.
That is something else, man. That is something else. You do a little 4-wheeling too?
4-wheeling all the time.
Right.
I'm a big Toyota guy. So I'm up in the mountains. A couple years ago, I bought a big old van to take my family out with, and we go see the national parks and get up in the mountains and put it in 4-wheel drive and hit the lakes and stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you live in a great part of the country.
Oh yeah.
That's sort of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like we talked a lot about mindset in this whole thing, right? Even share your passion while you're in endeavor with bull riding. I don't know about your passion, but what would you say to, because we do have a lot of graduates that watch this, right? As opposed to new people, but a lot of graduates like to see how other people are doing. What would you say to that graduate right now that's possibly struggling, right? Maybe in the first 6 months of their business, first year,
Yeah.
You know, any words of advice from a
Yeah.
veteran by
Yeah.
now?
So from what I see, and what I train all my guys through is it's probably going to take you anywhere from 6 months to a year to close your first deal, like
Mm-hmm.
your first good deal,
Mm-hmm.
and know that you can have a conversation and know what you're doing. Um, and I've seen and talked to a lot of people that are either thinking about coming through CCTG or have,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to continue to tell them, like, stick it out. You have to
Right.
pick up the phone and make the phone calls. If you don't know something, that's what the back end is for. That's what you guys are
That's
here
what
for.
we're here for.
That's what you teach them.
Sure.
And I think people are afraid to pick up the phone and give you guys a call, even though it's there, because they're afraid of being told no. They're afraid of being, right, having to structure something. They're afraid of learning something new, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had a conversation last week from a previous graduate, and I said, you have to pick up the phone and make the call. And they're like, oh, but I don't know. I see this all the time. And I'm like, how do you even know if you have a good deal or not? You got to ask the question.
You gotta
You got
ask
to
the
ask the right
questions.
questions.
Right.
You've got to know what you're talking about.
Right.
And if you don't know, you got to pick up the phone and go ask them again.
100%.
And then you're going to come back to me and say, okay, what about this? And then you're going to pick up the phone and ask again. And by the 10th, 15th, 20th time you do that, repetition is going to kick in, and you're going to know the questions to ask your borrowers so that you can present a good deal to a lender and know that
100%.
it's bankable.
But you're not going to be able to get that until you do it. Like you have to, you have to, repetition comes out of practice, obviously.
So I call that first call a discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to talk about a deal until I know what the business is doing, how long they've been in there, what they're trying to do, why they're growing, why they need money.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, that's after we ask all the questions. Now we have a base foundation to talk about what their deal is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what helps get it from point A to point B to point C to close.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. And what about, I got to share with you one of the biggest problems that we have seen with some graduates is that when we talk about just sales 101, a new lead comes in, whether it's from your neighbor, chamber of commerce, or an internet lead. They maybe only call 2-3 times. And if they no one picks up, or they leave a message and nobody calls back, they just kill it. And I think, and what we're trying, people that are not used to sales, you have to understand, like I always say in our business, it's like an 8 to 10 touch rule.
Yeah.
Most of the deals happen at 8 to 10 touches, not that first call or that second call. You got to keep following up. I mean, can you attest to that or say?
Yeah, that's the whole reason why I was spinning my wheels when I was trying to go knock doors on companies, because
right.
I would get the runaround of, oh, I'm not buying anything yet, or we're not buying anything this year, or we've already spent our budget.
Right.
That's BS. All they do is kick you to the curb so that you don't have to deal with them, when really their business does have something you need to do. So it is important to continue to follow up, right? Emails and phone calls. And I'm a big believer in working my market in Utah. I don't do a lot of deals internationally or nationally. I kind of
you really stick to the
Utah,
local
Rocky Mountain area, everything surrounding Utah, because I like putting a handshake behind a deal. So from inception to when I get that discovery call done,
right,
if I have the opportunity, I will go and meet that client and see their business, see what they're doing, see where they operate, see how they operate. And I try to know the ins and outs of that business as much as I can.
Right.
And that blows a lot of people away when I'm telling students or future grads or even post grads that talk to me, is they don't understand the commitment of hand holding that it takes to get a business closed, to get a deal closed.
Right.
You can do everything online. I'm not saying you can't. That's just how I operate my business, and bring a personal touch to it, to the point of introductions to lenders and being there and being involved. Even when a lender handoff happens, I make sure that lender knows that I'm the point of contact for that deal, so that we're in charge of everything. We earn our money. Up to the point of closing, we go to closings with our customers. We take them gifts and appreciation and say thank you for letting First Touch do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we make them feel special, because it is a big deal to have somebody on your back that's going to know what they're talking about, save you money, and get a deal that's going to make sense for you.
Well, and I think that extra effort that you put in to go meet them, being that they are local, put a face to an email or a name, a name,
Yeah.
I think goes a long way, particularly in a local market.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. What are some things that, I would ask you, like, if you could do things over, right? So what, like if you could tell yourself the first year or first 6 months into this business after you attended CCTG, if yourself right now could tell yourself that any advice, what would it be?
I would have utilized you guys a lot more than I did.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I would. I thought that I came to class, I knew what I was doing, and I tried to go out and do it.
Stubborn old bull.
Oh man, 100% right. And my wife will attest to that. That's 100% me.
Yeah.
And I should have utilized CCTG more. John is a wealth of knowledge. I know Lucas is up and coming and doing a damn good job at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are here to help you out.
Yeah.
All the way to Alex and with what Joe does in marketing. Like, the team is here. That's what they pay for. That's the school that you offer to people.
Right.
And people don't utilize that enough.
Right.
And that's what I would say is, you got a deal, call John. They're not gonna do the deal for you, but they're gonna tell you where to go, what lenders to work with,
Sure.
how to do it. And then it's your job from there to learn. Every single call I had with Mac, I learned something new. And it got to the point to where I didn't even need to call those guys anymore. I wish I would have done that sooner.
Yep. And we encourage it. So that's good. I don't know. In every episode that we do here, no matter who we talk to, we always like to turn the ties. So, questions.
Yeah.
Nothing's off the table.
Right.
And if something is, we're going to edit it out anyway. But, but in any event,
everybody, we just came back from a 10-minute break.
Yeah. We had technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So we do have that luxury. But no, all jokes aside.
Yeah.
Are there any questions you want to get out on the table?
Yeah. So one thing that I've loved seeing from your end, right? I think you and I have become pretty good friends.
Yeah.
We're not just, I just didn't come to your
right,
school
absolutely.
and all that. I've taken the time to see you, have conversations with you, meet with you. And I feel very, very appreciative to have that in my life, almost as like a mentor of sorts, right?
Oh,
You've been able to help me out a ton. But I love that you got into racing and you're doing new stuff. And I love your rallies, man. I love seeing that stuff. What you do for your foundations, raising money.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Right. So what was it from you to get in the mindset of actually racing cars? Like, what was that like? Cause that's something new, right?
It's something. So I always loved cars,
yeah.
Right. I always loved cars. I always love to go fast, as long as you don't die.
Yeah.
Right. That's something I always loved. And when I got in a position to be able to afford, it's an expensive hobby.
Right.
And you like cars too, right? I mean, you like all that stuff. But, so I like cars, not for what maybe people on the outside think I like them for. Right. I don't buy a sports car just to look cool or have a midlife crisis, or you know what I mean? I'm what I consider a true enthusiast, right? I love, every car is different. I love driving. And that's what, it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day about how far I live. I live an hour from here, to and from work. I would never live within 5 or 10 minutes or even 20 minutes from my place of work. I like the hour drive to and from, right? Because I like to drive.
Right.
I find it relaxing. I find it therapeutic. Most people go to therapy, or they go to, or they do what they normally do to blow off steam.
Right.
I like just jumping in a car and going somewhere. And a lot of times I don't even know where I'm going. I'll just pick a route and just go and drive, right? Because it's like you're controlling a machine, and the machine's different. It responds different, right? So I get way into it. There's people say, well, of cars you have, like, which is your favorite one? I don't have a favorite one. It all depends on the mood, where I'm going, what I want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
even the roads, for that matter. Getting into racing was a challenge for myself, because look, I just because you can drive, or you like to drive fast on the highway, is a whole different ball game on a track, right? Yeah. And like you, maybe with bull riding, I wanted to challenge myself and really learn. I always was a fan of racing, and I've been on tracks before with some cars, but I really wanted to enter into a realm of like getting trained professionally, by an instructor that does it for a living.
Yeah.
And it's amazing on what you learn, and you realize really quick, at least in the beginning, of how much you don't know, right?
Yeah.
It's not just having a fast car and, you like to go fast. That's not even, I would say that only makes up maybe 20% of it, right? I mean,
Right.
it's so technical. And it was a challenge for myself, and I did it, but I loved it, just to get that that angle. And what I also like about racing is it's between, it's you and how well you control that machine, but it's also against other people, but it's really yourself, right? You are against
Right.
other people, but it's not really a team sport, even though it is. I mean, it can be, right? Like think of F1, right?
Yeah.
That's a team sport. Everybody has to be involved in the game. But I'm just saying, like, gentlemen's racing, right? Or amateurs racing, if you will. It's it's kind of one-on-one with all these other people and you and the machine as well,
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. It's an adrenaline rush. You get better at it, like bull riding, right? You get better at it. You shave your time off when you go around a track, and honestly, it's I've learned, like, after a weekend of racing, that drive home, I'm not going as fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? You kind of get that. You get that. And I drive fast. I like to drive fast, but I find myself not going as fast after a weekend of racing because
Right.
like, you've been there and done that. Like, you got that out of your system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you just want to relax.
I love it.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And I love the competition.
Right.
I love the competition aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, I thought you would, and that was my question of asking. Right, I got myself into some pretty fun hobbies over the last couple of years, and I know that's yours. So
Yeah,
I appreciate you sharing that with me.
absolutely. Well, just like you with bull riding, right? It's you're testing yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately, I think we're all testing ourselves to see
Right.
how good we are.
Yeah.
Or not good, I should say.
So I think that's the funny part is, one for myself, right? I'm heavily covered in tattoos. I think that's one of the big things that differentiate me in this industry is when I go out and have meetings, right? I'm not in your suit and tie. I'm a more casual.
Are you dressed like that normally in
not
meetings?
like this. No, not like this. I
not
like,
that you dress bad. It's a good look, but I'm
yeah.
saying, like, in a meeting, you showing up with a suit.
I might have a blazer on, some jeans, and my cowboy boots.
Okay.
It's kind of how I pull up, right? But people tell me, right, I'm not the usual banker that they would think, and I think it kind of lightens the mood a little bit to where we can get a little bit more comfortable with each other and have some real talks without diving into P&Ls and balance sheets up front, right?
Are you ever self-conscious about it?
Never.
So you own it
too long.
So you're
That's
proud
who
of
I
it.
am, right? Yeah, you had to become yourself.
I mean, like the tattoos.
Yeah, you got to make a mark for yourself. I mean, right on my hands, right? It doesn't matter if I'm in a suit and tie. People are going to look at the tattoos on my hands first.
So do you have a whole routine about you already know what they're thinking?
Oh yeah.
So do you have a standard routine to break that ice?
Well,
Just to kind of like get the elephant out of the room.
So first off, the way it starts is, right, people, they'll see my email signature, right, and they're like, how in the hell do I pronounce this guy's name? That's the first one.
Right.
So then we sit in a meeting and I'll go introduce myself and people won't know that I'm the guy that they're supposed to meet with.
I see.
So then I get the up and down look at what I'm wearing and the tattoos that I have, and then we start a conversation of, how in the hell do you say your name? Where is your name from? And that lightens the mood from there, because I tell people, one, my dad's from Afghanistan and my mom's Irish. So I got my mom's skin tone and my dad's beard is how I put it, right?
Okay.
And from there we have a very light conversation, and it just opens the door. And I own it. I just tell people, like, yeah, these are the tattoos that I have. This is how I started getting tattooed. And for me, I'm an art collector in that sense, if you will.
Yeah.
And I know that's a world that you're in as well.
I get it. Yeah.
But it's personal, right? I've got tattoos for my kids and family and hobbies that I do. And it's like a personal homage of my journey.
Of your journey. Yeah, no, I love it. You ever fuck around with somebody and say, like, all right, well, listen, I'm on work release. I just got out of prison. and watch their reaction, or no?
Some of my clients and business partners bring that up. Like, I know Bill Kurth. Right?
Yeah, I know Bill.
Every time we're out to lunch and we meet somebody or we're at a show or an expo, he tells it, oh, Dave just got out of prison. So,
yeah.
Right. So yeah, that comes up.
I would do that. I mean, if I had tattoos, I do have a tattoo on my arm, but you would never see unless I wear like a really short sleeve shirt.
Right.
Got when I was 20, but I if I had that, I would totally, like, make a joke, lighten the room a little bit with that.
For sure. Yeah. We do client appreciation stuff, and, summertime I'm out rocking some shorts, and you can see my, Japanese leg sleeves that I have.
Even your legs are tatted.
Oh,
okay.
It's front, back, side to side, man.
Wow.
It's all over the place.
Okay.
So, but it does. I think it brings personality behind the business that we do. Right.
Yeah. It doesn't make it boring.
Yeah. And I like to think that I've led a pretty colorful life, right? And people get intrigued by knowing who's behind the brand, if you will.
Who's behind the band? I 100% agree. 100% agree. Anything else? Any other questions?
No, man. I hope to be back here in a couple of years, right? I hope you and I are working on some really big deals.
I hope so.
And
I
doing some
hope
fun
so.
stuff together.
I really appreciate you coming out here and really coming out here. taking a plane and seeing our, well, you were in our old office when you took our training. You see the new digs.
Yeah.
And I hopefully we could do another one in 3-4 years.
Absolutely.
Just to follow your progress.
That'd
And I
be great.
appreciate you talking to people too.
Yeah.
And just graduates and people that call you up randomly and all sorts of those fun calls.
I had the opportunity to change my life with CCTG, and there's no reason why somebody else can't have that same opportunity if they take it. So
Awesome.
That's what it means. I'm very thankful to be able to meet with some of the grads and post grads that talk, and sometimes even the non-participants send me deals anyway. So it's in everybody's favor.
Good. Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Dave. Well, listen, that wraps it up, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed this fireside chat episode here in person with Dave of First Touch Consulting. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, you'll see that icon pop up where we have content and episodes that are coming out daily. We have more in the pipeline for you, so you can kind of get an insight on what goes on here and what goes on with the daily lives of the people who take our training. So with that being said, have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. There are just too many commercial loan brokers that don't have a damn clue of what they're doing. All we're trying to do here is better the industry for everybody. At the end of the day, you can make great money in this industry, but in the end, it's all about helping people. People always say, Kris, how can I be a successful broker? It's 2 words, hard work and dedication. If you don't like talking to people, you probably shouldn't be in this business.